Hello guys, and welcome back to Power and Revolution 2019 edition. The last episode, we took Nepal. We ordered a whole bunch of military equipment from our own industries. We did some denationalizing of stuff, and we got Indonesia condemned by the United Nations, and we actually have in process trying to get intervention against them now that the Security Council has actually changed. One thing I did not do after taking Nepal that I now remember to do is to go ahead and take my remaining agents from there and assign them to other locations to get these numbers up to 20 so that they perform more efficiently. Where should the last 10 go? Indonesia, India, Brunei. Let's actually get all these up to like 15. That sounds better. A little more efficient. I also noticed something quite hilarious when I was looking through some statistics so I went to the poverty statistics and I found that there's a country that has 100% poverty, which would be South Sudan. This is 4 times the world average and World Trade Organization average of 25%. I went to go take a look at South Sudan, just take a look at their situation, and I found that their growth rate is 1.96%, not the worst, but not the best. Their unemployment is 28%, and their inflation is 32%. They have a national deficit percentage of 60% of their GDP. Their debt per percentage of their GDP is 316%. This is not normal. Somewhere between the start of this playthrough and now, South Sudan has completely and utterly fucked up. One of the first things I'm going to do at the start of this episode is reduce reimbursement for prescriptions, take all of that money and dump it into... How much does all this cost? How much do you cost? Yeah, dump it into occupational medicine. I don't know what the hell that does. We'll dump some money in occupational medicine. That saves about $21 billion, and the reason for that is because I plan on putting it elsewhere, literally like the whole amount, into regulating contraception. I'm going to promote it, meaning I'm going to literally pay to have it advertised in your face, and in some areas even provided to you. The reason I am doing this is because this game's a little buggy. Whenever you take over countries, their population growth rate gets merged with yours in a exponentially growing way. In some instances, the game just literally adds it. Just takes it and adds it into yours. The fertility rate goes up, the actual birth rate goes up, and it gets a little crazy. So rather than wait even longer than I have been waiting already to get that underway, I'm going to start promoting contraception, because really the only other thing I can do to control my population is to make sure abortion is legal on demand. I think I changed this in the beginning and I forget why. No, wait, I know why. It was an easy way to save a quick couple $1 billion while I was still trying to get out of debt. Just taking a sneak peek at that space program we set up at the end of the last episode. We already have 2 offers, one from the US that wants us to pay them, and Russia offering to pay a very small amount of the total budget. I will gladly take Russia's offer right now before anyone else even gets a chance to apply, and we'll see who applies in the second round. The law on contraception has passed, and already the contraception rate is starting to spike upwards. You see these are very tiny amounts, but hopefully it will get a lot closer to the Czech Republic's numbers right here at nearly 100%. Another big change in trend, with the contraception rate spiking up, we can see our population growth is already spiking or plummeting downwards. Looks like the number has changed, from 0.81 down to 0.381. It's weird because the numbers themselves haven't updated on the screen. And there's all sorts of shit popping up on my screen right now. Okay, yeah, contraception rate is still going up little bit by little bit, but it's like the population growth updated immediately down to 0.381. That is definitely less. The birth rate has changed 12.55%. I mean, okay, that's lower. It doesn't to me, it doesn't explain such the instant radical change. It's like some of these are updating instantly and some of them aren't. Looks like the European Union has accepted Norway into it. I don't really know what that means. Other than that, they've just now lost... No, wait, they joined the European Union, not the Euro. Okay, so I don't really know what that means, except that now they have to pay that weird agriculture tax that the EU has. Well, this time around, the vote went much differently. Maybe because the group changed, but even the US and the UK voted yes. In France, they didn't do that last time. Maybe it was the fact that I got even more dirt on them since, or maybe it's the fact that the denouncement went through first. I don't know exactly what set it over, but every single country on the Security Council just voted yes to an intervention against Indonesia. Therefore, we are going to go to Manage Networks here. We're going to find Indonesia, and we're going to change them to cyber attack preparation so that we can get ready to attack them just generally whenever we're ready for it. Of course, compare this to Myanmar, who's our current next war target. This would be a much different beast trying to attack it. I wouldn't even know what kind of strategy I would undertake to do this. I'd have to, I guess, maybe have a base here. Maybe I can set up a base over here, actually. I don't know. At the very least, I'll probably have to send my units here first, and then send them over here from there, and hope that they get there in time through a cyber attack. Otherwise, it will be a large and bloody war. It's definitely possible. It looks like the border here is just 200 miles away. That's half the distance I had to travel to take Mongolia. So I think I could get to the capital, even with the landing process included. I'm actually going to go ahead here and free up, let's say, 15 agents from random locations. Let's see, Philippines, and let's go with South Korea. Take these 15 agents, and I'm going to open up a new network of agents in the Maldives. Do some political spying just to see if we can dig up any dirt on them, because I already have people in Sri Lanka and India to just kind of get this whole area in one go. Would be pretty useful if I could accomplish it. In just one operation, I actually completely got rid of that Hindu fighter movement from Nepal, so we are officially terrorist-free again. The second round of funding has only one applicant, and it's Pakistan, and they have offered barely any money at all. But I will still take it, just because getting them involved means better friendship between our countries. And I guess I'll just see if anyone else applies in the third round. Otherwise, we're going to get that going this episode. So one thing I'm actually going to do is I'm going to actually dismantle the network of agents that is in the United States. So I'm just going to quickly confirm that. And I'm going to instead take the agents that were a part of it, and I'm going to create a new network of agents all the way down here in this little teeny tiny country called Palau. It's not that I expect to find any dirt on them to gain justification, but it's just to make sure the network is there so that after, taking the Philippines or somewhere down here, I can start expanding with cyber attacks and invasions into the Pacific to dominate my control over, I guess, this area. This seems to be real life China's, area of opportunity. Naturally, we're not going to be attacking Australia anytime soon, and I've yet to actually set up any agents in Malaysia or Thailand, specifically because they don't dislike me. As it stands, I may be able to make them allies, as I have with Vietnam and Laos, and then have this Indo-Chinese bloc that supports me and that I can economically expand in tandem with. I don't know. It's just the way I see it going. So Azerbaijan wants to join the Mercury probe thing, and they want to join while giving literally no money. Because this is a positive number, I can only assume that it's in something that rounds down to zero rather than actually being zero, since this is in the millions. It must be less than 500,000. I'm still gonna accept them, just because I wasted the time waiting for it, and then the rest of the payment is going to come from me. The rest being literally almost all of it, 98% of it. But hey, you gotta do what you gotta do. We got our funding here. Let's set the launch date. Oh, this has a Yeah, this is going to Mercury, so this actually has launch windows. We haven't seen this in any of our other programs because it was so close to or around Earth. I think we saw it for the Sun program, but for Mercury, we actually have launch windows for which we have to time our thing here in 3 months per launch window. Now, how exactly does this work? All right, so we're in 2024. Oh boy. Okay, so let's go with the 5th. Next launch window 2/25/2024, but that's not next. Look at this. I don't know, man. I'm just gonna set it to this. If it doesn't yell at me, then I'm gonna assume that I did something right, I guess, and it should be good to go. Okay, it got through, and it's not yelling at me for missing anything. $556 million, most of which is coming right from me, but it's being launched out of Russia for whatever reason. And we have 0% chance of failure with preparation because we already have all the tech. And there goes me re-entering myself into the space field here. Actually, last episode I told you guys about the mission to Mars, how I was waiting for that to finish. I guess I misread this as 2021 because this is actually going to finish next year in 2022. So that gives me time to do other space programs as well leading up to that. Also, in case you're wondering why I just randomly stopped ordering military goods so often, it's because as the amount of production has been rising, like the actual production lines, the numbers, that means almost nothing. As that grows, that is the economy around it growing, and we are seeing that growth start to be reflected. I've gone from about 3% to 4% growth since the start of the year. It's been more than half of the year since then. It hasn't been going up too rapidly, but I've decided to stop purchasing a bunch of military goods until I figure out if this is going to stay where it is, or until we have a calculation that brings it down maybe at least a little bit, because 4% is a very good growth rate, especially when paired with only 1.8% inflation, which it has been sticking at. In order to keep the momentum of space programs going without breaking the bank, looking at another extremely dirt cheap option that we can do is another orbital probe. We're going to probably spam a lot of these until I get enough money to do one thing I definitely have planned that I want to do. We're going to send an orbital probe to Venus, and we're going to call it Venu Probe. Venu Probe, because I am creative. We will set the total starting budget to $550 million as before, and this really doesn't even touch the bank, guys, comparatively. What I want to do, my biggest goal next is probably to make a base on the moon. However, that's $100 billion base budget, which means we'd want it around 200. It also requires the super heavy space rocket thing to be done, and I'd rather get that done before planning for the next one. I don't know. It's just a milestone to allow me to not break the bank while still aiming for that goal. But here we go. Let us create this. This is also just another way for me to spend money and advance things, accomplish goals without really fucking with my economy very much. My economy, which, by the way, my growth has gone down by 0.2%. As for looking at more military goals, I've been looking through these charts here, and I found not only do we have the most fighter planes already by default, and I mean, these drones really don't matter because almost no country uses drones for reasons, and unless you have Tech 3 drones, you can't buy with them anyway that I know of. We do have the largest submarine fleet already. We have the largest cruisers and frigates fleet already. I'm not sure about some of these other ones, like nuclear submarines. Nah, that goes to the US, of course. We wouldn't need very much to surpass them, technically. Aircraft carriers, yeah, that goes to the US, but again, wouldn't need much. It's a very expensive project. Like you want to make one at a time is how expensive a project that is. Otherwise, missile launchers goes to the US by a long margin, just like tanks goes to Russia by a large margin. I don't know what the hell they base a lot of this information off of, because a lot of this is actually really inaccurate. Holy crap, in 1 quarter we have an $80.5 billion cash surplus? So now we have a treasury reserve of nearly $100 billion. Hey, we're getting close to having a treasury. Once we double this, we're getting close to having a treasury that can actually sustain that base on the moon thing. I think that's about when I'll get it, when I'm sure that I can actually pay for it all out of pocket. on the chance that literally nobody, not even Russia, wants to pay to be a part of such a monumental task. Our growth rate seems to be dipping back down now that the initial onset of our many ordered military goods has passed. This is another chance to go back and order some more goods. The reason why I'm focusing this right now is I really want to get to that #1 military in the world status, or at least close, before approaching the bigger and bigger wars. I want to make sure that I am dominant and that not even the US or Russia could challenge me. And so to move towards that, we are going to go ahead and order another 200 of these tanks. While looking around these politics screens, I noticed that since the start of the game, not just I have been kicked out of the World Trade Organization, but so has at least Indonesia. It's hard to tell if any smaller companies have joined this list, but me and Indonesia have both been kicked out of the World Trade Organization. I guess this is probably because I got them denounced on the global scale by the UN, which is kind of funny. It throws another 275 million people out of it. I wonder if I could basically end up breaking apart the World Trade Organization by the end of this, especially if I get enough countries denounced. And one of our journalists has been hijacked in Syria by the Syrian Brethren of Islam. And they're planning to... What the hell? Well, why was he even in Syria? Whose dumb idea was that? Since we are literally just one order of 200 tanks away from getting our objective tanks to 8,000, putting us above everybody in number of tanks except Russia, I'm going to go ahead and finish that up right now because I think our economy can handle it. As you see, our average sale and purchase price of tanks has been going up, probably because of me inflating it due to how many I've been ordering. Alright, the Venu Probe space program is waiting a reply, and I already looked at it, and it's not looking too good. The only semi-good offer we have is from Russia, which is just 2.5 billion. It's not even 1% of the budget. And in fact, if I keep going from this point, the total budget price is going to change so much because of it adjusting to the changing value of my currency that this will end up costing us more than if I had just funded it all initially. But I want to see with another round, maybe who else I can get on board just to boost friendship values. I decided to check on some of these earlier numbers, and as I expected actually here, the population growth kind of spiked down immediately and then stayed the same. It's now under where we started at the beginning of the game, but it's still positive. That birth rate went down to, well, around the beginning of the game. Oh wait, wrong button. Around the beginning of the game, and it's just kind of stayed there, but the contraception rate is still spiking upwards slowly but surely. So this definitely adjusts over time, and these two, for whatever reason, they and including fertility, so these three seem to know what it's going to end at and then just adjust to that immediately. I don't know if that's an oversight on part of the devs or what. So the USA has researched AI, simulated intelligence, conversation, simulated feelings, whatever the hell this is. And they're the first to research it. And on another note, it's like we have so many tanks being made now that we've reached a point of national production where my current orders aren't going to raise the production anymore or something. It hasn't changed in months. So it seems to have stopped affecting the growth just entirely for whatever reason, which seems unrealistic, but that's fine by me. That means I can now turn my attention back to helicopters, which I was initially focusing on, which with the 2 orders of 50 has only put production up to 25, so I'm actually kind of afraid to order in hundreds just yet. So the next 2 orders I'm gonna make are going to be in 50s, just starting with one batch of 50s. Do note, these are a lot more expensive than tanks, as you can see, going into like nearly 5 billion per 100. Belarus wants to be a part of our orbital probe here going to Venus, so I'm going to accept that. They ironically offered me more than even Russia offered me to be able to participate. Barely more, and the total budget number is changing at a rate where it's barely actually making any money. But hey man, friendship? We've gone ahead here and researched creation of robotic emotion. whatever that does. And I've gone ahead and started moving all my commandos over here. I've gone ahead and started moving like 60, 70,000 troops, just infantry, no tanks, nothing like that. I've measured out the distance from here to right about here seems the best place to get our troops waiting to attack. It's not quite the distance that I traveled in Mongolia, so with a cyber attack I should be able to cross the distance here. It is potentially very likely that the military cyber attack will undo itself by then, so I think this time around I'm going to go about it a little differently, and I'm actually going to start moving into their territory before the cyber attack finishes. That way, we're not officially at war yet. You know, I'm going to wait a few days just to give myself a couple extra hours even, maybe just one extra day to travel so I can get in here and make sure the capital is taken as fast as possible. Because so long as I can get into the capital while most of these soldiers are still in their barracks, then the country will fall. And if I lose even 70,000, 100,000 troops sent over here, that's fine. I mean, for fuck's sake, I ended up with an extra 200,000 troops. I don't even know where I got them from. I guess Nepal, except Nepal, as I understand it, didn't even have this many troops. Unless they had conscripts that I just didn't know about, but I don't know. So I don't see anyone else actually applying to take part in this Venus probe thing, so I'm going to go ahead and just fill in the rest of the money myself, which is going to be literally 99% of it. Modify. Here's our final. Oh, wow. No, that's still not enough. I have to literally put in 100% of it, or if it lets me round and do percentages, we do 0.3. And there, alright, with 0.3 it works. We're going to approve the program. Whatever date is set for it by default actually seems like it's going to work pretty well, which is interesting because comparing it to literally the last thing I made, which was Mercury probe, this has to go into 2024. Now, I think Venus understandably is closer, yeah, at least right here it looks like it's closer to Earth the way they've designed this on this little map. But this does mean that we can now start another space program. Again, this is one of Russia's right here. If you're wondering what this is, I've applied to it. I always apply to the ones Russia makes. I have yet to ever be accepted to partake in one, ever, no matter how much money or how little money I throw at them. The next thing I'm going to do in terms of a space program should be another simple orbital probe, just to keep it going without breaking the bank. I'm going to focus it around Mars. Not on Mars, because as you can see, we've already done an orbital... Wait a minute, have we? Have we already done an orbital probe? Oh, we haven't done an orbital probe to Mars. I actually did not realize that, considering... Okay, we also haven't done space probe with landing. I did not realize that. Well, alright, cool. Let's do an orbital probe to Mars. I was actually going to just cover the moons of Mars, but let's do an orbital probe to Mars. That should be good. Mars probe. Simple, easy to remember. Tell all your friends about it. They'll know what I'm talking about. 550 mil for going to Mars with a simple orbital probe. Let's create that and give people a chance to apply. The next two I'm probably going to set up are orbital probes, one going to Phobos and one going to Deimos. And I have a meeting here with the leader of Belarus who wants to trade something. He wants to sell me beef. Apparently I'm not making enough beef. Man. Alright, it looks like I'm already buying some too. Someone else wanted to sell to me. I vaguely maybe remember negotiating in this realm here. Let's go for 1650 and see if you're willing to negotiate. You are willing to negotiate, and you're willing to give me a damn good price for it too, Belarus. Nice. Let's go to 1750. They went to 1856. I'm going to meet him at 1840 and negotiate. And there you go. We got some beef for a much cheaper price, and it looks like more than what we had under contract before. I think I have to go to... Where is beef? Oh, it's under farming. For some reason I thought it was going to be under industry. Some of the foods are located like that. So this right here is my initial clause for beef, and it is, yeah, they're both for me purchasing things. We got a much worse price from Kazakhstan when we made this. It's still lower than our actual purchase price, though, and they gave us about 36,000 tons, whereas Belarus came to us with 121,000 tons, and for a much better price. It actually has a smiley face this time as well, is how much lower of a price it is. After waiting a while, I still don't see our growth being affected too much, but the production is going up, so I am going to order another 50 helicopters. Taking a quick look at our budget information, I've seen that our budget excess is still rising rather rapidly. When I got it back into the positive after changing a tax, it was at about 50 billion. It was at 100 billion the last time a quarter ticked, I believe, maybe a little over 100 billion, and now it's up to past 200 billion in excess. I think this is actual natural growth as our economy grows of our income, which is actually really nice, and it means with time we'll be able to basically just stop worrying about money altogether, and to eventually help out our people look at lowering taxes or just, spending more on certain programs. Since my money is doing so well at the moment, I'm going to go ahead. I found this rather cheap part of my industry that I can purchase some shares in. I'm going to purchase in rare earth oxides. I think this is like rare metals or something. I don't know. But it's only like 12.5 bill. So I'm going to purchase into that. That will increase my overall revenue from it, but will hamper its growth a little bit. Okay, something's going on, and the screen's super laggy. Okay, the long-term International Space Station program has succeeded. So it's probably laggy because of the map mode I'm in. I didn't realize it would do that. We got a huge happy green face from that. I mean, we're already maxed out on popularity, but huge happy green face right there. Where is that? Long-term International Space Program success. There you go. And where's the other one? Here it is. Yeah, that was another success. Nice. So those ones are now officially out of the way. And I think if you look over here, you can see our programs here now lined up. First round of funding is done for the orbital probe to Mars, and it's just as unsuccessful as all the rest of these one-star programs tend to be for funding. Of course, Russia is who we are going to accept. They've offered 3.2 million, actually 1% of the budget. It's better than nothing. I'm sure we'll get one or two extras offering a similarly bare minimum amount, and I will take them. Simultaneously, our growth is holding very steadily, even going back down a little bit, as this is going to start capping out around where it is. So I'm going to go ahead and order my first batch of 100 helicopters, and I'm probably going to stick with 100 for the near future until probably we get to about a goal of 1,400. And then we're going to look at it, see if it can be upgraded to batches of 200 from there. Oh no, the oldest person in my country died. I noticed there's a couple of arms embargoes and such that we never raised that are placed there internationally. So I'm going to try to get rid of these. I know the buttons you have to press are pretty weird. So is it apply? It's cancel. It's raise like that. Okay, so you have to have it clicked and then you hit raise. I always forget how this menu works. It's so confusing. We do want Yemen to like us. It would be nice. So I'm going to take them off the list. Libya is not our worst friend in the world, so I'm going to raise the embargo on them. Lebanon, Iran, Iraq. Iran will definitely take Iran off of here. Indonesia, well, I think the only reason they have their import and export blocked is because of the UN sanctions. I think it does that automatically. Iraq, they don't hate us. We don't hate them. They don't like us. But we'll raise the embargo on them. We don't really need to embargo someone we don't plan on going to war with sometime soon. We'll raise it on Eritrea. Let's go ahead and get it back to normal speed. Democratic Republic of the Congo, we're going to raise it. Anything else? Central African Republic, raise. Just, if they're not in my immediate vicinity and I don't plan on declaring war on them, this doesn't need to be like this. Alright, this is now getting in my way. Lebanon, yeah, I guess I'll raise it for Lebanon as well, even though I don't think they're necessarily aligned to us. Somalia, raise. Sudan, raise. Any others? No, that appears to be all of them. Man, that UN embargo is so efficient. We've embargoed them completely in our industry as well. Not to mention farming. Wow, dude, the UN sanctions, I can't only imagine what they do to a country's economy if you're hit by them. I think I'm going to test whether or not I can get more of these potential enemies of mine sanctioned, just to see if I can affect them and make them go crazy. And I'm going to start with South Korea, actually. So we have sufficient evidence for sanctions against South Korea. I'm going to ask them, the Security Council, to denounce South Korea. And then hopefully that works. If it does, I'm going to start doing that to everybody. Everybody that I have any kind of dirt against, if I don't seem to have enough to get war justification against them, solely for the purpose of getting them like completely sanctioned, ruining their economies, getting them kicked out of the World Trade Organization, that sort of thing, upsetting the international balance of things, since the actual war justification coming in has been pretty scant. For now, we got a full episode, so thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.